Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to our podcast for tonight. We got a good one for you. We've got a new special guest as well, and so I should actually fade into the correct framing right there. Little off center, but that's okay. Meg is here to join us. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Social is out on Twitter. Social's out on Discord. So if you would be so kind as to share, always appreciated. And don't forget, those of you who are joining us on Twitter for the first time, like and subscribe. Hit the reminder button. You can. We broadcast live every Monday, except for that one random last week when we did it on Tuesday. But more times than not, it's going to be Monday when we come live, especially as when double game weeks come along, which... teaser, that's coming. But yes, we're super excited to have Meg with us tonight. So I think we're pretty good. How do all the levels sound, everyone? I might be a little hot right here myself.
It's hard to pass that joke up. I'm just gonna let it go.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. Good, yeah. Yeah, Tanjo said we're good. Okay, so I can just keep an eye on the little levels down here with that. So we do pretty well with the levels. I try to monitor them. You guys are a little bit higher than I am. I'm a little bit lower, so it all works. All right, well, we're going to get started. Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the MLS Fantasy Insider, our review of round 11 and preview of round 12. This episode is brought to you by the Mid-Season Coaching Shuffle, the new hit single from MLS Records. Brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreon supporters. It's because of you all that we are able to keep this project going. Thank you so much. And if you want to learn more about our Patreon project, you can head over to patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reed Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partners in fantasy, Blaine Riffle and Ashley Savage. We'd also like to welcome our very special guest, Megan Turner, a.k.a. Meg, who is one of our longtime members of the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord community and a server moderator. Welcome, everyone.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
So good to have you with us tonight, Meg. This has been a journey because Meg is one of our very good players. She is a member of some of our Experts League special chats, and it took some convincing to get Meg here, but we're so excited to have you, Meg. Do you want to give a little bit about info about your fantasy background, your fantasy journey?
Sure. I've actually been playing fantasy soccer for 9 years, back when Chat Tango was a thing.
Heck yeah.
And MLS graphics were horrible.
Heck yeah.
Jerseys. And this is so far my best season as far as ranks. I've never been in the top 300 and currently ranked at 231. So
Thanks.
Enjoy the fun that goes with it.
See, and this is why we've got a variety of members from our Discord community. Like I've said before, we've got people like Christian who come on who are number one, and we've got people like Meg who are coming on who have learned the game and clawed their way up, and they're doing fantastic, and they have great insights to share, just like players who are in the top 10, the top 100, made the Champions League, haven't made the Champions League. It's this fantasy community that is just so well developed, and everyone has great insights, and so we are super excited for Meg to be on here because she's been doing fantastic. She's been killing it this year. So
I'm just excited to have the ovary count even finally.
Oh my gosh.
It's been I guess last week it was just you and me, but
that's right.
It's just
And welcome back, Blaine. Welcome back. Blaine had a little bit of a break last week as well. Good to have you back.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
That's right. And I mean, I'll go ahead and put the call out right now, like Ashley says. I mean, we do what we can to try to get a variety of guests on the show.
Absolutely.
But if you want to be on the show, reach out to us. It doesn't matter who you are or how long you've been playing. If you think you've got some good fantasy advice, there'll be a little bit of some vetting. I mean, we want to have quality content here. Not always correct pronunciations, but we try for quality content. So yeah, if you'd like to be on the show, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at MLS Fantasy Boss, and we're always looking for new guests to come on and just add their own take to our usual conversations.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are excited again, Meg, to have you on here, and excited to get your feedback from some of this round, which was a good round, I guess, depending on where you fell. For me, I ended with 94 points, which feels weird to be actually 96 points. Sorry. Ooh, the Skylar differential correction in my favor. 96 points.
Those Mukhtar points.
I know Mukhtar points right there, but still, like, it feels weird to be a little disappointed with 96, which I won a mixed bag with my head-to-heads this week, but over 100 points was definitely possible. And I think if you didn't have to score in the 90s or triple digits to have a good week, I mean, this was around. I saw some comments online that said, especially Tyler was saying, don't look away from the chalk midfield. You need to have the chalk midfield. Not true. You needed to have Mukhtar as your captain. Holy cow, the hat trick captain right there, which I think is the first time for me that's ever worked out. But for me, I had Barriel on the bench that came on well. My keeperoos did not work out, and I have a comment about that later in the show. But I hit the Mukhtar captain, had Espinoza, and then everyone else just sort of was okay. And if you did better than okay, that's where the triple digits were definitely there for you, and people hit that, and so fantastic right there. Chat, go ahead and share some of your scores. Yeah, already seeing several triple digits, saw several triple digits on Twitter as well, but don't be down if you were in that 96. I know for myself, like I'm in the top 200 right now, which is usually where I shoot for, so that's where it gets, like, I think Megan made a comment about this once before too. It's like just a few points here and there and your scores can change crazy. So don't worry about that. Expectation versus reality. As always, going to start out with Cincinnati, this time versus DC United. We expected Cincinnati to win and have a good shot at a clean sheet as part of a lot of the keeperoo options that many people may have used. The reality was that it was a bit closer than that, at least than I expected, and my Santos switcheroo did not pay off as I had hoped. Saw some of the DC changes, thought that might have been a good opportunity for some points, and that's when I brought Santos in. Turns out, like some of the advice last week, maybe going with Houston as your keeperoo, same points as Celentano would have been a better option there, but it was hard to make that work if you were looking at Vancouver as your switcheroo options. As far as back to the game, DC really pressed hard in the second half, and that earned them that goal and broke the clean sheet for Cincinnati. Literally, I swapped out my Vancouver keeper and was like, yep, I'm going to go with Celentano. And then DC scored. And I was like, well, going to redo that right back there. And that's my fault. Sorry, guys. So I'm going to take that one. But what I will say is that it was fantasy points generally came from the players that we would expect fantasy points to come from. Ooh, right there. But we did see a return of points from Acosta, which has been lacking this year. And so is this a sign of things to come? We'll have to see, since he's on a bye this week, so take that for whatever it's worth. But I am going to take partial credit for this, because I did think about, maybe I could roll with Acosta this week with DC, and I thought, no, Reed, if you do that, he will do poorly. And so the best thing you can do for this community is to not take Acosta. So you're welcome, everyone, and we'll see what happens there. But a little bit of mojo, maybe a little form potentially coming back there. A great Galazzo right there, and a fantastic pass to Barrial for that goal. I also want to talk about Miami versus Atlanta. I know that's another game that after many of us seeing the absences come up for Miami, we expected a goal fest for Atlanta, and a lot of people swapped in Almada at that time. A lot of people were hoping Gigi was going to feature again to go with that. And even though Atlanta may have outshot Miami, it did not fall for them, and they did not come away with the points. And so there are still no fantasy standouts for Miami. This is not, let's look at Joseph, let's look at what's going on. There could be some changes up front for Miami's forwards that may impact fantasy potential, but nothing is jumping out immediately here. And as our previous conversations about Amada being a must-have, I think that should be put to rest now. I think some of these recent performances clearly show that people like Amada or Heel are not must-haves for your team. Very situational, especially with Gigi out. And the final thought is, I still think Lennon is too expensive for the point production that he can have. And I guess I did lie. One more game that I was going to mention, Vancouver versus Minnesota. And I actually expected this to be on Blaine's list of what he was going to talk about, since he bragged about popularizing the Vancouver defense before it was hot. But the expectation was that we would have a solid keeperoo with this team in Vancouver. But the 5-goal reality made this a bad game for any defender who was not Boxall for Minnesota getting that goal. It was just goals everywhere. And of note, I know that White came away with the brace this week. He's gotten several goals in the past several games. I still find him very boomer bust. He's a Wando-esque kind of poaching player, which makes him a good bench play. His price point also maybe makes him a good bench play as well, but he can be boomer bust. What I'm really more pleased about fantasy-wise with this game is seeing Gauld score. His points have not been where we would hope for them, not for the quality that we have seen him in the past as a fantasy player. And so if this is the start of better form for him, then that is something that I am interested in tracking, especially as he is a sub-9 million midfielder that has some promising games coming up over the next few weeks, and it has a pedigree that I think could really pay off in the future.
Reed, on that topic, while we're here with Vancouver, I will say that defense did better than expected given the 2 goals allowed. Vest came away with 6 points. Brown had 4, which I know is another one that we like, and then Blackman ended up with 3, so 2 bonus points along the way. But Vest coming out with the 6, he had the assist there, and Brown just getting it. These guys are getting bonus points consistently still. Not bad scores if you took into the defense, considering we're going to talk about a guy like Alex Roldan who got a 2, who we expected a whole lot more from. Overall, if you had certain ones, but the keeperoo was absolutely awful.
No, absolutely. And we can talk more about keepers in the next section. But Ashley, let's hear how your round went.
Yeah, I had a good round finally. I feel like I've had some decent rounds, but not like a pop round. I feel like this was my first pop round of the season. I ended with a 113, and I even had some pretty garbage midfielders and defenders. I had Gressel, I had Alex, Roldan, had Almada and Puig. Hector Herrera just not doing very great for me, but captaining Mukhtar, having Espinoza. I got Barrialin, who pulled a Madronda, which is always appreciated. Get a goal, get a shot, get out of there.
Heck yeah.
And then Shackmore and Clark got me some shutout points, and then, like I said, I had Bouanga on my bench to bring that goal in. So I won all my head-to-heads, including our second in a row. Was this 2 weeks in a row? Or do we have a week between MLSFI derbies? Did you play Blaine 2 weeks ago?
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I played Blaine this week, and unfortunately, Blaine is 0-2 in that MLSFI Cup. But I just, like I said, I had kind of a uncharacteristically good week for me. My week rank was 70. I'm 7 spots out of CCL. So I'm hoping maybe I'm gonna have to kind of throw some non-chalk out there if I want to make it this round. So we'll see. My expectation versus reality, San Jose, LAFC. I think a lot of people expected LAFC, even with the rotation, to still produce. I definitely expected a Bouanga goal, so I had him on the bench. And the reality was Espinoza with a great brace, San Jose win, no shutout, Bouanga goal. I'll throw credit and kind of echo, because I've been saying it too, but quieter, to Tyler, who's talking about Espinoza every week. Is he maybe fixture proof? Is it time that we give him some credit? We always talk about Heel and Mukhtar and Zella and Almada, but Espinoza is just really having himself a season. So definitely already on my radar, but 13 against, what would have been the first team in the West is a good week. Talking about the bottom of the West, Galaxy, Colorado, I think a lot of us expected maybe a Galaxy shutout. People picked up Chicharito. I saw Puig on a lot of people's lists. They were terrible. It was one of the hardest games I've watched for a while. They looked so bad, and I feel bad saying this about Colorado, but no one we're really looking at from a fantasy perspective. Some names you've heard from seasons past, like Jonathan Lewis and Lawless Abubakar, but nothing I would have paid attention to from a fantasy perspective. And thankfully, I had already got a Houston shutout because my keeper was Klinsmann, and he was just garbage. So I don't know. I'm just taking another thought at Galaxy. They're at home again this weekend against San Jose, which is a derby game for them. But yeah, they were just terrible, and that was not what I expected. And I don't think a lot of people expected that either. So, yeah. that's all I got.
Yeah, the one thing I'll add is to your LAFC game. We had mentioned paying attention to LAFC and Philadelphia players after the CCL match, and they did have some returns from both of those teams. Gazdag had the goal in Philly's games, and so
Gazdag was a PK. I do just want to point that out.
he got a goal. That's all that matters. We got
the asterisk goal. The
That's
points
fine.
count,
That's
but
fine.
don't let it inflate you.
The points count, but we did get performances from these players come back from CCL.
Yes.
Not an issue, but we do have other games to talk about in that same vein. Meg.
Well, I ended on 84. I was one of those people that decided to be cute and cap Almada versus
Totally get it.
Totally get it. And it hurt bad. I also had Barrial, who was awesome, 13 points. I stacked Atlanta defense, and that was bad. I pivoted to Vancouver defense, which was equally as bad. Last minute, I went from Alex Roldan to Morris instead, so didn't help me.
For like.
Yeah, exactly. I ended up with the 2 points. Also had Cheech. Biggest, I guess, win was I had Ibo Basay on the bench, so I got his points. So,
and of course, a happy birthday to Meg tonight.
Thank you. I happen to have got to watch FC Dallas live. The 50 minutes that they were on the field. Obviously that one got postponed. So Areola went down like the 20th minute. And once that happened, then the whole dynamics changed. Jesus Ferreira kind of shifted back. Jimenez was put on. And honestly, there just wasn't much happening. There was nothing clicking. St. Louis, they didn't have Klaus. So it was sort of like they were trying to accomplish things, but things were really sloppy. Lowen was frustrated for the first half of the match, and it was obvious. Parker was was trying to draw fouls, ended up getting a yellow card the very beginning of the second half before it was postponed. And so he will be missing next week. So, but that's pretty much 50 minutes worth of content.
And in case anyone is confused, that game did not count for round 11, so no points for that, and you got substitutions and switches for those players, as that'll be played at another time.
Yep.
Blaine.
Yeah, 97 for the round, which honestly wasn't good enough. I couldn't beat Ashley with that. It was kind of fluky. Nope. I made some mistakes. I made some really good saves at the last minute. I decided to shy away from Evander at the last minute. I know I put him on the doc for last week to talk about. That was the gut call there was right. I went with Hector Herrera and spent way too much money there. Had no room to really pivot when my bench didn't hit. I decided to drop Abear and put Sergio Santos on the bench, which lost me a point. But I was still expecting Ferreira to be my carry for forwards, and that game got washed. Big news of the week for me, though, was I ended up pivoting to Mabiala for Portland at $4 million and got the 5. And then I decided that I didn't like – I only had one option that I could really afford, and that was Kevin Cabral for Colorado. So I threw him in for a 6 and really salvaged my week with 11 points that I wasn't expecting to get. I probably shouldn't have gotten. Ended up on a 97 with the Mukhtar captain. Actually did go with Gazdag, who gave me a 9, which was better than any of the other mids I was comparing him with, except for Evander, who was switched out for Herrera. But my keeperoo was terrible. Spent way too much money on that, and then Alex Roldan really bit me.
You and everybody else.
Yeah. And speaking of Roldan, that Sporting in Seattle game was crazy. I will take a first win on the season for Sporting going to Seattle.
First goal Seattle's let in at home.
Yeah, that's a great stat to have there. That's the first, and it was 2 at home that they gave up. I really expected Seattle to come out and win this one comfortably, 3-1, something like that. I kind of expected Sporting to get a goal. But what we noticed is Kinda being out there really helped Tommy settle into the game. He looked a lot more composed, a lot cleaner on the ball, which means the whole team was playing better that way. This is the first time in like 600 days they've had all 3 DPs on the field at the same time for Kansas City, and it really showed. Kinda got on the score sheet with the assist. Tommy had a goal and an assist. Polito scored his first goal in over 600 days for the team, or for the first, or for in MLS or something like that. Like it was good all the way around. The attack kind of settled in. This is what we were expecting. The more of Kinda we see, the more I expect this offense to get going. That's the big takeaway here from this game, fantasy wise, is when that full lineup is healthy, they're not this team to go grab heavy defense on that can't score anymore. They're showing it. But this isn't really an indictment on Seattle at all. They were missing way too many players. Nuhu was out. We've got that.
Yeah, I'll hop in on that. He got malaria. Could come back next week. Could back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Joao Paulo out on yellow card accumulation. He'll be back. Christian Roldan, unidentified determination of when he'll be back. They moved everything around. So I know a lot of people liked Alex, maybe Fry for a Keeperoo, Ladero, Hebert, Jordan. But the lineup is really going to dictate. They moved Alex Roldan to the other side of the field. They started an academy kid where Alex Roldan usually plays. This isn't a lineup, if it looks like that you probably want to take these guys from fantasy, depending on who you're playing. But, this week on the road at Houston, who's performing quite well, if any of those players still aren't there, Nuhu, Christian, if Alex is on the wrong side of the field, I don't think that's anything to look at for sure.
Yeah. I can touch on Roldan a little bit. They were talking about that on the broadcast, and they said it's concussion protocol, and Schmetzer has said they are not going to rush him back and risk any type of injury or re-injury or anything like that.
Well, I can talk to you about it because I've heard from friends who go to me today that it's an undisclosed injury that they're concerned is part of his brainstem. So that's why they didn't flag it as concussion. So Schmetzer's not saying that. That's not what they're saying at pressers or anything. But that's something that, yeah, I think you could see him back in 2 weeks, or I think you might not see him the rest of the year. So once they say more, we'll know more. But it doesn't look great.
Okay. Yeah. Whew. That's even worse than what.
And then malaria. So I don't know who we pissed off in Seattle, but not going good.
So for my other two games, Portland and Austin was a game that I was really expecting more from Portland, but we got goals both ways. I thought Portland's defense was getting a little bit better, and Austin hasn't been playing well at all, but they managed to get two and get the draw on that one. Driussi was benched for this one, which is crazy to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But they played better without him out there too. So who knows what dynamic is going on. I think this is a team that's such a dumpster fire right now, even with a good performance. Don't read into it.
Read who got on the score sheet.
Dancing Bear.
Dancing Bear.
Yeah. And then Evander got 2 assists, finished on an 11. He's a guy we had high hopes for preseason. Looks like he's finally getting into form with the club, and that's always going to be good news for us. It's a guy we can rely on. His price point is a lot lower than other premium mids, and so if he starts giving us that more premium production, he's going to be in a lot of teams going forward, just because he's a lot cheaper than a guy like Hector Herrera, who is good, but he's not performing to Evander's numbers week in and week out when Evander's playing like he is right now.
Quick update. Cam's saying that Driussi wasn't benched. He's hurt, and he's going to be out for about a month. So he wasn't playing because he's hurt.
Okay, well, good to know.
Groin injury, says Chad.
They still looked better without him out there, which says a lot, too.
Yeah, it's not great.
And then the other game I had on here was Toronto and New England, and I expected goals both ways in this one. I like Toronto's attack, even though they're missing a few guys. I expected Bernadeschi and Insigne to get something done, create something. CJ Sapong going up there has been solid for them so far. I think he's already gotten on the score sheet once, not this week. But I expected a little bit more. But, man, New England's defense is good when they're healthy and playing well. And that midfield in front of them is holding the ball. Expecting goals both ways and not seeing Toronto get shut out at home with those high-powered names. I think we got to bump the New England defense back up to that elite top-tier category. They're able to take it on the road and go shut teams down. They do give up a few, but this is one of those teams you can rely on. And their bonus point producers are getting consistent bonus points all the time. So there's some safe options in that little bit more expensive category.
Oh, yeah. You just like dropped off right there. Like,
Yeah,
what-
I lost my train of thought. And I was like,
Yeah.
where do we go?
Just like right off the mountain. Well, no, great thought. Yeah, New England definitely a solid defense. Lots of options right there. That's all that we have for our takeaways. We're going to be moving into a quick little wrap up about our housekeeping and what's coming up for round 12, the final round of the second quarter qualifier for Fantasy CCL. Right after this.
Reed, when you get to it, let me check one thing on leagues. But when you get to homegrown league, we got to shout out. I think he's in here. Let me see where'd he go? Maybe he's not. Is he not in my league this year? I thought I saw him in here at one point. Maxime. Who's got Maxime in their league? Snowflakes FC.
I can't just recall those types of. I can't even get there. I don't know.
I thought he was
You?
in mine, but he's not.
Well, then we're not going to shout him out.
Well, no, he's number one round rank for the week, and he's in one of our leagues. Like he's number one. He got the top score of the round.
Snowflake FC.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I can't remember which league he was in. I was just gonna piggyback it on the league.
He's not in Pro Red.
He's in one of the Pro Rel leagues. I just don't remember which one.
He's not in
I'll
Champions.
check mine, but
We'll
he's
just
not.
give a
Yeah.
shout out
Not
to Snowflake
Champions?
FC.
Okay.
No, I didn't see him.
He's not in
Just
Champions.
give a
But
shout out.
he's one of ours.
Okay.
Josh is looking, so
Not in mine.
There we go. There's the social out, so we'll just figure it out.
And he got a 133 this week.
nice.
Uh,
That's awesome.
Yeah. He's also from our draft group too, but he's on Discord a lot. Oh, and he just had a baby last week too.
You,
How do you know
just
so much
have
about this
so,
person?
so much.
but you don't know what the league they're in.
Vincent?
Spencer. Yeah. I don't know. Nice.
Well, he's in our draft league. He's one of our admins. He's on Discord. He plays in a Pro Rel league.
This is what you all get. This is the quality content that
I
you
know.
get coming and joining us on the stream.
I'm
that
gonna put
gets
my kid to bed,
edited
Blaine.
out.
Let's
There,
move it
yeah,
along.
we gotta go. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Push. All right, welcome back to our housekeeping section going into round 12. First with our league updates. Champions League, Ryan Anderson from Lineup IQ is leading with a record of 9-0-2. Over to our Veterans Pro Rel League, Sombrero FC still on top on record now.
It's just points before.
Just points.
Clearly
Now
it
it's
is
just
now.
a solid on stop. Yeah. On the Homegrown League, White Worm FC takes over the top with as the lone 9-1-1 winner there. And then over to the Discovery League, we have 3 players tied with a record of 9-0-2, but it is Hey Ricky, You're So Fine by points. And also a special shout out to Snowflakes FC, who was the round 11 overall top scoring player with a score of 133 points, and who is apparently in one of our leagues that we cannot identify at this time, so we are so sorry.
Blaine's
But-
really good friend.
That's right.
Close personal friend of Blaine.
Very
and the
special
show.
friend. And
He's from our draft league.
Just
but a big
doing
shout
it.
out,
Yeah.
shout out to him right there. Over to our other leagues though, our Discord league, we have 5 teams tied with a record of 10-0-1 with Ryan McElhenney by points, one of our previous stats writers for MLS Fantasy Boss. The Patreon League, 2 teams tied at 9-0-1, but it's Sloppy Stakes by points. And then over at the MLS Fantasy Insider Experts Invitational, which I think I lost by 1 point in that one. That was a pretty rough one. But Black and Red with a score of 10-0-1 is leading right there. So congratulations to everyone who is doing so well in all of our leagues. Now looking at the actual start time for round 12, which is the final, as I said, the final round of the second quarter qualifier for the MLS Fantasy Champions League. I think I got all of that out enough. I was so close with qualifying, and then this last round when I got this 96, and now I'm at like 81 for the qualifier round. So I'm solidly out of the Champions League qualifier, but I was
81 is not out.
I don't know with this
81
competition.
is not out. I bet that's like 4 points.
We'll see what happens. It feels like it's out, but this is the final round to qualify for the Champions League for this quarter. Round 13 is when all of that will start for the third qualifier, and we'll have a fun show set up for that one to help you there. But round 12 starts Saturday, May 13th at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Time. Got it right this time. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time with Chicago versus St. Louis. And then we have a whole bunch of teams, as usual, after that, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30. But the first one is 1 o'clock p.m. with Chicago versus St. Louis right there. And then we also have one game on Saturday, May 14th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is LA Galaxy versus San Jose Earthquakes. No teams are on a double game week this round, and it is Cincinnati who is the lone team on a bye, which they are an excellent team for your switcheroos because we have 4.0s at every position. So load up on Cincinnati to activate your switcheroos or keeperoos this round. As far as other games to consider, to get a little tease about this earlier on, Open Cup is back on, and it's pretty much everyone who is playing this week. Also, the Canadian Championship is playing, and so all three of our Canadian teams are playing there. And then basically everyone is playing for Open Cup. The best way to keep up with that is just go to the schedule section and look down and see who's playing. There's going to be some weird travel with teams who are playing at home and then on the road. Some of it is okay with like the Texas and sort of setup there, but some teams have some strange travel. And I also just want to point out, because this one's weird, and made me say, come on, MLS, what you thinking? This is a classic hashtag because MLS. Chicago is playing St. Louis in the Open Cup, and then Chicago is playing on Tuesday, tomorrow. And then Chicago is playing St. Louis again on Saturday for MLS. So it's just like Mortal Kombat mirror match going on right here. So, which that doesn't even really make sense, but that's what's in my head. But yeah, so there's some weird things. But yeah, check it out. Tuesday and Wednesday, Open Cup games right there. Also, another weird bit of update, but definitely has fantasy implications. There have been 2 coaching changes today, if you didn't guess that from our little fun teaser at the beginning. New York Red Bulls and Chicago have parted ways with their coaches. They both now have interim coaches, and the question is now in the air, as it always is when there is a coaching change, and that is, will there be a bump or will there be a continued slump with a coach? So we will see, but expect different things from those 2 teams as they now have a different coach at their helm. And this, of course, leads us now to our suspensions and injury report, brought to us by Blaine.
Yeah, good news to start the show, or start this section. Kinda is back. He played 45. He was expected to go between 30 and 45, and he decided he wanted to go the full 45. So that's good to see. He's slowly working back in. Kyoto returned to the lineup and scored a goal this week, which he's been out for a few weeks with the, but if he's getting back and healthy for Montreal, who has suddenly found some goal scoring form, expect a lot more production out of him. Looks like Duke coming over from Miami has really helped. They're kind of gelling as a unit right now, and getting Kyoto back can only be a good thing for Montreal. Red cards and suspensions. We're in yellow card season already. Derek Jones and Enzo Capetti are both out on accumulation for Charlotte this week. Franco Negri is out for Miami after getting a red card. Waterman for Montreal on that defense is going to be gone. Benzier's still out, and then Jahiz for DCU. He was arrested and suspended indefinitely, so that's just going to be one there. Pretty significant list of injuries this week. Some question marks, some not. Nuhu's got the malaria one. Update on Dylan Barrero is it is an ACL tear. He is out.
Yeah, he's done for the year. Yeah, he had surgery.
Meg touched on it. Areola subbed early in that game that didn't count, but watch for him in case he's not able to come back. Koulibaly for the Galaxy came off with the leg injury. Brian White is listed. Tyler put him down as a possible injury. He subbed early.
He did.
Watch that one if you're interested this week. There has been a lot of rotation, and Brecker came in and scored a goal as well. He's been playing really well, so there may just be some rotation there. I don't know that that's an injury, but always concerning when you see a guy that's on a brace go out early. But that's just maybe what's going on. Driussi, we touched on, has that groin injury. Teenage Hadabe for Houston, potentially have a leg injury.
He had surgery. I saw a picture of him in a hospital bed.
Okay.
So.
Well, Chris Mueller, potentially unknown. She hosts for Chicago, is listed as a potential. And then Gray and Kufri for New York City are also down here as unknown injuries, but definitely something there. Adelson Malanda for Charlotte's also going to be out. So that's 3 Charlotte players that look like they could be unavailable that going into this week. And then Kristoff for Miami's also listed here as a potential injury.
Yeah. I want to touch on it because chat said it, or Cam said it, that Minnesota released a statement that Reynoso's back in Minnesota, but is not participating in team activities. So something to pay attention to as they continue to work that out. He's in the country. He's in the state.
Yeah, good update. I just saw that one recently. I felt like I was gonna drop that big bomb, but then
Oh, sorry.
no, it was okay. Chat did. I mean, this is good. Kudos to you guys for that. But yeah, no, interesting news. Reynoso being back. Thank you, Blaine, for that update. And of course, you all can stay up to date with the Mega Reference and other interesting fantasy tools over at the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord in the Fantasy Tools section. So you can check all that out. The easiest way to get to the Discord is to go to mlsfantasyboss.com/discord. Click on the link. It's free, it's fun, and it's an absolute fantastic community, which I'm sure you will hear more about during the plugs. But for what you've all come here for, I absolutely know it is to hear us talk about who our early player targets are for round 12, and we'll be getting to that right after this. Let's see here. Yeah, I forget about how much Christian's got set up in there in all the fantasy tools with the glossary and scores and advanced stats and stuff like that. So I forget about all the neat things in there. Chat breaking just. I was gonna say that. I was gonna be like, boom, Reynoso. Chat.
Oh, sorry.
Chat. All right. And just a quick little thing here. We all have an identical midfield, and so we can either be like, this is why we do, or if we want to do anything. Yeah. So yeah. I was like, yep. Everybody is having the same thing. So feel free to take that whichever direction you want to. Get out the plugs. The social.
I'm the only one that's considering heal, so I'll talk on that.
Okay. Where'd it go?
I added Ladzima to mine, so.
There we go. Get some special stuff. There we go.
I like it even more now knowing about Red Bull's head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could change the dynamics.
I'm worried.
All right, welcome back. We're going to talk about our player targets, at least on Monday, going into round 12. Starting off, as always, with our keepers and defenders. And a few of the 4 of us, 3 of us are all looking at Lennon. We also like Philadelphia, and we like Columbus. So I'll let you all expand some there. But starting with you, Ashley.
Yeah, I'm considering Gressel still this week. His road point production has been decent. I think Portland is an interesting place for that. I think he could contribute offensively. I'm not super confident in the shutout. And then I'm also kind of price-wise similarly considering Lennon or Bai. I like Houston. Yeah, I said it. So there's nothing to change about Seattle. I really don't see them going into Houston and scoring a lot, if at all. And then I'm also considering Columbus and Philadelphia defenses. Blaine talked about it a little bit for his team. I also had Mabiala last week as a bench play because I saw he was starting and I knew he was 4.0. I don't think he'll start this week because Zach McGraw will be back. But if he is starting for Portland, he's 4.0 and he's going to price rise. And Portland, Vancouver, I don't know, maybe. For keepers, though, right now I'm going Schulte to Blake. Blake is still so cheap, and I know it's because they haven't been very good. And I've just been very on Schulte a lot of this season. He gets bonus points for a keeper. I do kind of like that matchup. So I thought about Brady. It's really starting to get to me the time differences, but I don't want to just take Brady just because it's early. But I don't think that's too bad of a shout. But I definitely don't want to touch anybody from the Sunday game. So you got to plan those keepers and autoers out based on the Saturday time frame. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
Blaine.
Yeah, I'm gonna Chat's talking it up, and I'm right there with them. I like Brady on the front end. St. Louis without Klaus has not been scoring the same. Stroud,
Possibly no She-host is what concerned me, and they lost
yeah,
their coach. So how does the coach? Do you know what I mean? It
yeah,
should make
yeah,
sense, but
yeah.
there's some things that make me nervous.
It's all over the place right now. I mean, they've scored in their last 3 games. They put 5 on Cincinnati. This is a road game. They didn't score in Dallas in the 50 minutes that they played. Whatever. It's one of these. They're scoring goals, but Chicago's one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams. Really, I'm on this because I think Chicago can get the clean sheet in this one. I really do, especially with the coaching change. That can definitely fire up a team. But it works, and I've been spending 8 million on the first keeper in a keeperoo. I can get away with 6.3 here, and see a score against a team that is struggling without their starting forward. I'm good with Brady. Tehran's another one. If She-host is out, you're either looking at him or Tehran for your starting. And Tehran's gotten more involved offensively, which is huge for this type of game. So I could definitely see that one. And then the back end of the keeperoo, I'm actually looking at Melia. If the Seattle lineup looks bad, I could probably go with Clark as a more sure thing. But Sporting has looked much better on defense this year than they did last year. Melia has been playing really well. Only got beat by Seattle because of a penalty this week. And Minnesota's not been a team that is scoring great. Yes, they just put 2 past Vancouver, but Minnesota's not a team that has been scoring well, and I think this is a potential good shout for a second keeper at home, given the way the rest of the games stack up. I don't see many home clean sheets at all this week. So if you're going to clean sheet hunt or look for a few bonus points, I think you go with Clark or Melia, save some money and spend it elsewhere. And when we get to the midfield section, there is a reason why some of us still have to save a little money or kind of consider where to go. Even at 135 million, it's a little tight at times with this. But I've also got Gressel and Lennon in there right now just for the offensive potential there. Gressel may get cut depending on what I feel like Portland later on in the week, if we get more word on Draw coming back. Gressel's very expensive after coming off of 5. I don't know, but I don't trust that Portland defense enough. It's going to depend on budget and what Aruz I want to try to set up. But right now it's Gressel, Lennon, and then Chicago, whoever starts for that one.
Meg.
Well, I have Schulte or Westy, and I, unlike Blaine, have Ivanek or whichever Portland goalkeeper is starting as my pivot option. I also have Lennon. I have Morera, which is the reason why I can't take Schulte. McGraw or Mascara. And then I have a flyer for, I'm going to end up going with the New England defender on the bench and just roll the dice. Currently have Jones, but that's kind of my thing. Could bust all together, but I'm going to roll with it and see what happens.
I like Jones. I can't say that's bad. I've got Jones myself, so
cool.
I can't say, also on the bench, so I can't say that's a bad one. Yeah, so I kind of teased this at the beginning of the show, and the caveat with this comment is I am waiting to see what the lineups look like with Minnesota and Philly, because Philly has a game tomorrow or today, Tuesday, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, where they're traveling to Minnesota for Open Cup, and then they have another game in Colorado on Saturday. So that is a lot of travel, a lot of distance, like we were talking about before. But depending on what happens, I'm tempted by Blake, and to see what I know. Chicago or Colorado just dropped 3 on LA Galaxy, but I would definitely rank Philly's defense better than LA Galaxy. So I'm potentially willing to just roll with Blake as a sole keeper, because last week I did run the keeperoo, and I felt very just like focused on I had to have a keeperoo. Like I threw in Clark with Houston, and I was like, no, that's not going to work with my keeperoo. I have to do something that works with my keeperoo. And I just got like just laser sight vision on having a keeperoo, And you don't always have to have a keeper. I mean, that's going to free up money if you don't want to do something like that. You can have a Cincinnati 4.0 keeper right there, no problem. So I am strongly considering, depending on what happens with that Minnesota game, if I may just run with Blake as the sole keeper. If not, I might look at the Chicago keeperoo. I'll just kind of evaluate some information based upon then. But I think that's always an option if you just want to look at having a single keeper and just saying, you know what, like I said last week too, the variance isn't huge with a lot of the keepers, so you could just run with one that you feel like has a good time for good potential for a clean sheet, and just go with that. But that's what I'm kind of potentially rolling with the keeper. Otherwise, on defense, I like matching up my keepers, and so I have Wagner as well. And then I'm debating about Nashville as well as a potential team that I might target for that. DC, a little bit dangerous against Cincinnati, but Nashville has some tough defensive options there as well. Like to see what happens with their back line, but Shaq Moore could be someone who I have into the team.
They had some cheap starters last week that
they did.
Did pretty decent. McNaughton 4.4.
You can shave a lot of money right there. Mentioned Jones as well with Meg that I like. I'm not disappointed by what that Houston lineup might be. Little bit of questions there, Ashley, with Seattle. So I think that you could even consider having Hadebe right there and Columbus.
No, he's had surgery.
He's out. Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I know he's been one that we've looked at in the past,
Yeah.
but one of the Houston defenders, and then Columbus. I think Columbus is a good shout to potentially. I know you were looking at Moraria. I think he's a good one as well, but you have some options there.
For Houston, Tyler will yell at me. Macau. I'm gonna say Macau.
Yeah.
Is a 5.5 defender who got an 8 for Houston last week, playing for Teenage. So that's a decent look. And I also wanted to point out, chat pointed out, that last time Atlanta played Clit was Caleb Wiley's breakout game as a winger. So he begged to brace that game. I mean, worth paying attention to since it's a home game for them this week. But I think we all know that form hasn't been the same. But yeah.
And then I saw some people mention some of the San Jose players in chat, or maybe with keeperoo option, and I don't think that's a horrible option. I know that LA has struggled at times to score, but I see San Jose giving up a lot. They score
it's a derby game.
And they concede. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for reminding me that whoever it was, what you said on Apple, who called it the Kentucky Derby, that's wrong. That is not what it is. It is the Kentucky Derby.
Was it Rebecca Lowe? I hope not, because she's British.
Someone told me that like somebody on Apple TV called it the Kentucky Derby, and that is wrong. That is not.
I would never.
What that was, but no, that's just my opinions about San Jose. I get it. It's mostly based on LA, but I feel like that San Jose does concede, and so they kind of go both ways. They score a lot and they can give up, but so I lean away from that myself.
Reed, I'm going to jump in. Chat was talking about it because you gave him the idea of single keeper. If you're going to go single keeper, I actually lean more towards Petrovic than I would Blake.
Depending on how you want to spend the money.
Depending on how you want to spend the money. It is a little more expensive,
Blake's
but you're saving, even on the cheapest keeperoo that I've got, which is Brady D'Amelia, you're still saving about $2 million running single. Miami, like I said, I like New England's defense. They've been playing better than Philly's right now. And Reed, it's Colorado versus Philly. If you go single keeper, you know Barrios is going to bust that clean sheet on you.
No, he's not.
You're going to really tempt fate on that one?
He does. I might. I told you I'm looking to see what happens at that Minnesota game and find out there.
I will also point out that New England's only kept 2 clean sheets in the last 5. So I don't know that. I'm not trying to poke holes in your system.
But see how you're going to spend that money. Like I said, there's not a lot of difference with the keepers. Petrovic got an 8 last week and Blake got a 9. So you don't have to go all out for those big keepers if you're running a single game with keeper. Look at some of the stats, check out lineup IQ, see what's coming out there, and you can make some predictions.
I haven't worried about money in weeks, so I'm just saying.
Well, it just depends on how you want to. Let's talk midfield and see where people are spending their money this week. The consensus, pretty much all of us: Amada, Zella, Espinoza, Mukhtar, and 3 of the 4 of us also say Herrera. So Blaine, reasons or other players?
Let's talk about the one-offs we each have.
Yeah, like reasons is because everybody's doing it. Like
Oh, I hate when you say something.
I know, but the thing is, we're all gonna suffer the same fate, and it comes down to differentials, and
That's
that's
that's not good advice. People said that last week, and 3 of those
Yeah.
chalky guys came up
Yeah.
busted.
Hit
So
me with the one on your list that Reed didn't just say and why you're considering.
yeah. Like I like the way Evander's been playing lately. I honestly do. I think that's your big shout out, your big differential this week. Probably replacing Herrera, but I want to see that Seattle lineup for it. Teams in flux, like that's the other one you have to look at, and maybe you go with the Santi Rodriguez with Red Bulls firing their coach. It's a rivalry game. It's a good one to have. Um, Montreal's guy, I'm gonna butcher his name. Starts with the CH.
Yes, I did. I tried to say it 2 weeks ago and it didn't work.
Yeah,
That midfielder for Montreal.
Yeah, the only Montreal midfielder worth having at the moment, really. He's been scoring some goals, playing pretty well. Depends on how you rate that Toronto defense, and I don't very often. I've never liked the Toronto defense. I haven't taken them at all this year. I just don't see it. He's been scoring pretty regularly. He's got a 5.3 average right now. Like, if you're wanting some differentials, if you don't trust some of the big names, those are the guys I'm looking at. But I don't think you're going to sway me from the guys I have.
that's fair. Totally fair. Meg.
Well, I have Ledzuma currently. He is a VP generator, and to play on what Blaine said about the head coach swap in Red Bull's territory, I could possibly turn into being something. But I also still have a hard time veering away from chalk. Although I'm still very bitter about Almada, but I can't take that out of my lineup. So
That's fair. Ashley.
Yeah. The only name I am considering off of that list is Heel. I'm not sure who he replaces, but I'm definitely considering him at Miami. He's not producing great. He's definitely not currently fixture proof, but I think we all know he has the capability to be. And I know Miami posted a good shout against Atlanta, but Atlanta got a lot of stat Reed loves shots. I think that it's a decent place to go for a 10. If Bobby Wood getting back or Bo getting back, I think helps him, even though it's on the road. So that's the one. I don't even know if I can consider Heel a not chalk name because I think he's chalk until he retires. But that's the one not Amadazella SB Mook Herrera name that I'm throwing around this week.
And for myself, again, like I mentioned, I want to see what happens with that Minnesota game. I'm looking at Gazdag. He's very consistent in what he does produce when he is playing. I'm interested in seeing what he could do there. But again, I think you've got some openings here. We didn't mention Gald. I think that's one that we talked about earlier on that you could throw into the mix. We didn't mention any. There's more players from New York City FC that have been producing. Again, with Red Bulls not having a new coach, could be some different mix-ups that happens there. So I think there are a few players there. I don't view Herrera as a must-have, and I think even well, no, I was going to say maybe not Almada either, but I really like that Charlotte matchup. So he's probably not one that I would be switching. Like potentially, if you didn't like the away game, you could look at maybe Mukhtar as a number 4 of your 5 if you were looking at others to maybe drop. But I'm pretty happy with Mukhtar as well. But yeah, at least for me, Herrera is the one that is not on my team, and I think Gazdag's a good shout. Very very much part of that conversation of maybe not must have, but a week in week out must take a look at and have a conversation about because of the form that he can provide. Looking over at chat real quick, not seeing anyone else. I think we really need to touch on right there. Yeah, Rodriguez. A couple of players. Yeah, from New York, from New York City FC as well. So, maybe even Sporting Kansas City. Blaine.
Bonus points aren't there yet.
Not doing
just
it.
need the goals. That's
So
fine.
mad.
Well, let's move on now and start talking about forwards, which we have a little bit more variance right here. The only player that we all like this round is Cucho. So, Meg, who else do you like?
I have Polito on the bench right now. And I also am torn with either possibly Rubio, which kind of goes against the whole Philly defense, but and I have Bernadeschi or Joseph. It's going to be one of those in that last slot. I just don't know which one at this moment.
Fair. Ashley.
Yeah, I like Bouanga. I still like him even on the road. The LAFC Open Cup game is in Monterey, so it's like a quick car ride, so I'm not too worried about them. He's just scoring too much even on the road to not pay attention to him. And then I'm considering Byrne, but he's just never hit for me when I picked him up. They have Canadian Cup midweek. Toronto's been inconsistent, so I'm just not sure. So I'm also considering Bossy. I hate picking 3 players from the team that's playing my team is hard for me, but I'll do it. It's a little lineup dependent for me. Bossy's not clicking the same way he was kind of in the start of the season when people were getting really pissed off that he was scoring points. And I had him a lot of those times. So I'm definitely not shying away from him. But I also, Meg, I really like the Josef Shout. I think that I was kind of mad at myself for not thinking about him this past week because I know he loves an emotion-driven game, and to play, for his new team against his old team, I was really kind of mad that I didn't put that together because stats go far, but I also like to pay attention to that type of stuff because look what he did, right? I know one was a PK.
I didn't consider him either, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was definitely a little frustrated. So I might give him a bench spot this week. He's so cheap at 6.4. But we've talked about this for years with Josef. He's a goal or nothing guy. I mean, I want to someday, Reed, I want you to dig deep for me and show me how many bonus points that man has actually produced across his career in MLS. So he's got
I know be able to find that.
I know he's quickest to 100 goals, but he's probably got 6 bonus points maybe like across them all. So that's what makes me nervous. Those were his first goals for Miami. It's not New England is not a slouch defense. So that's what's kind of wavering me back and forth between he and Bossy. So
he's got 0 this year so far. So
yeah, of course he does.
Blaine.
Yeah, see, I'm taking a completely different track on this one. Cucho was the one I threw in there. It's just a home game against a defense that's struggling, and it's early, so you can throw that one on the bench if you don't like it. Then I looked straight at Abobasi. I don't like the Galaxy defense. I really don't. And the way they're playing, the way San Jose plays, I think it's a good week for Abobasi. I don't like taking road forwards very often, but
road forward late game.
Yeah, but that's also real easy to throw in your team and scrub out when your bench hits. So that's the appeal right there for me. Couple other names, knowing Kyoto's coming back, I've never rated the Toronto defense this year. As I said, if Kyoto starts, that's a guy I'm really interested in, especially if Toronto's still missing all their midfielders like they are. I think that's a chance for him to pick up quite a few bonus points and probably get back on the score sheet. But that's an if he starts, so that's why I can't in good conscience say it. And then the other name I'm really wanting to see, I want to see the Chicago starting lineup. St. Louis has not been keeping clean sheets consistently. If Kai Kamara starts at that price, he's an easy slot on my bench. He goes up and gets goals. I think he can do some work against St. Louis. He's cheap enough to be an early bench play, and I'm struggling to find a second forward anyway. So I don't mind that one. He's under 7.
If he's 6.7.
Yeah, he's under 7. So
and 42. 6.7 million, 42 years old.
I don't care. He's chasing down Donovan on the goal list. And I think he's going to get it this year. And you know what? If he starts, this is the game where I could see him getting another one.
I think you guys have touched on the top 3 right there. For myself, I'm right there with Ashley, Bouanga, and Cucho. Those are just 2 easy, quick ones I added. And Abobasi would probably round out my top 3 right there. I don't have the cash for all of that, so all of my money is spent on those top 7 players right there. So wouldn't be running 3 forwards anyway. That's not how I do things.
Yeah,
so
that's not how you do.
yeah, I think that covers all that. And finally, let's wrap it up with captains. Ashley.
So we talked about this a little before the show kicked off, and I've been thinking about it a lot since we started. And I'm really considering captaining Espinoza. Things I usually stay away from: derby games, late last day games, when it comes to putting an armband on someone. But I think Almada will be the common choice, and I get it. And I'm not against it, but I just have this weird Espinoza thing going on. So, yeah, I think Almada is the safe chalk Mukhtar pick of the week. But I'm just considering Espinoza.
Sure, I get it. Blaine?
Yeah, I mean, Almada was the first one that jumped out, and then when Tyler gave me the injury news, and they've got 2 suspensions, and Melanda on defense is hurt, like, everything is leaning
Yeah.
Almada just in a runaway game. If Charlotte plays like they have lately, Almada's just gonna feast on that midfield. Like, there is no reason not to take him. But if for whatever reason I shy away from that, my backup is actually Mukhtar in DC. Take the road one. I know you're following up a hat trick, and that's never advised. But the way DC plays, I think it sets him up to do a lot of good work and get there. And while I tended to like DC's defense a little bit more and give them more respect than other players, I don't think they match up well for this one. So I think Mukhtar is probably my second best shout for this one if you want to go for a road captain this week.
Meg?
I have Zayla currently, but I am
like that call.
also torn with the whole Almada, but a little bitter. So currently Zayla for me.
Understandable. So I said I'd run down, because people were saying in chat, talk me out of Almada. I think you covered that, Blaine, talking about some of the injuries and the question marks there. But for me, Almada is the number 1 captain pick because of that tempting game against Charlotte and how they do allow and can be exploited right there. If not Almada, I think you're right, Meg, that Zelarayan is a great option for number 2 with his form. He didn't do well against Charlotte of all teams, but in the 4 of the last 5 games he's got a goal and assist in each of those since he's come back after a little slow start. So love the form that he's on there and the potential they have, especially with Cucho back. Great pairing. And if not that, I would probably go with Espinoza before Mukhtar, even though they're both away players, and that being a late game, just some of the consistency that has had. And like I said last week, that even when Espinoza is not getting those goals, he often is also generating some good bonus points that could make him a solid player. But let's be honest, if you're going to go with a captain, you're going to want some offensive production right there to really make it good. But that would probably round out my top 3. And currently I'm looking at Almada, but definitely opening to seeing the conversation as it develops throughout the rest of the week. Well, that's all that we have for the show today. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us in chat. Really great interaction with the chat. Be sure to join us on these Mondays for live and joining in the live chat. It's a great conversation there. And a huge thanks to Meg for joining us on her first time as a guest for tonight. And we'll let you kick things off with the plugs, Meg.
Well, it sounds a little crazy, but I'd like to plug the 3 of you for putting in all the time that you do.
Oh.
Hello. Like, all of y'all have lives to live, and yet you still put in the time and the resources and the energy into bringing this together. And I know my husband and I, we watch it every Monday night or Tuesday when it falls on a Tuesday. And so, yeah, thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. We
Thanks.
won't sing. She doesn't deserve that.
Yeah, well,
she doesn't
thank
need
you.
that. Not deserve. She does
I
not
teach
need it.
2nd grade, so I've been
Yeah.
sang to enough today.
Perfect.
No, birthday guests should have their name butchered by Reed. Reed's got to just find a way to butcher their name.
It's hard to
Yeah.
butcher Meg.
Yeah.
It's hard.
We could find a way.
It's hard. Blaine.
Nothing for me tonight.
Ashley.
SKC's equipment guy. You know why? He's a listener for sure.
whose name might also be Morris. I don't know if we.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what his
I was
name
looking at
is.
the technical
Didn't-
staff to
didn't get
find
it.
out, but we'll see.
Oh, I bet you were.
I was
No
like,
way.
is his name Morris? No.
Oh.
And of course, for me, I have to the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord community, fantastic community. Again, check it out, MLSFantasyBoss.com/Discord. All the general chat and special features and tips that we have there. Super friendly people. See lots of teams getting shared, and some of the top players in the game are responding to those lineups there. So yeah, just check it out. Go share it with your friends and go there and do it. Also, MLSFantasyBoss.com, where you can check out the articles that we have posted, especially Tyler's Differentials article, which he did pretty well with this week. At least he had
He's hitting lately.
he's been hitting with some stuff. Yeah, it's always fun. And to get you out of that chalk mindset and to sort of think outside the box and think of the other ideas. And again, Patreon community, see what's going on over there, patreon.com/MLSFI. Lots of stuff, lots of seasons still to go, and we're excited. Next week we will have Skylar Redpath himself joining us, Mr. MLS Fantasy behind the scenes manager, as we talk a little bit more about what's going on with the season and our first double game week of the 2023 season. It's going to be excited. Be sure to join us. But until then, as always, good luck.